thank you for joining us here on the panel today.
Sure.
For the Where Washington Meets the Valley panel for our GWU Alumni Association. So what did you think of our panel today and the audience participation?
I thought it was very good. I think that it was a good idea to have the MBA students here. So I think it was a good way for them to see, from at least some of us in the panel who work in the Valley, what it could be like. So hopefully it was useful for them.
Well, I thought you gave some good advice to the students about, about from your own career perspective. You worked at McKinsey, NetApp, and what can you expand a little bit more on your experience moving from a large company to being with a startup company that made it to a big company and now heading up your own company?
Sure. I actually believe that I learned a lot at McKinsey. It was a great experience, but it's definitely not an entrepreneurial sort of place in the classical sense. I mean, you're working with large Fortune 500 companies, and as a management consultant, it's often more about what not to do rather than go out and follow a spark and take a brand. In fact, consultants are generally horrible at that. Right. They can find 20 different reasons to not do something, right? Than to come up with brand new ideas of where to expand and where to go. So that was sort of the biggest plus about coming into, especially around 1997, 98, where everyone just felt the horizons were wide open, right?
Right.
So coming into that kind of environment was just liberating, because you said, well, you're working with a group of people who feel they could do anything, and really the world was your oyster at that time. But then you move on, the company gets bigger, it becomes successful, and then you become more conservative naturally, because you're trying to protect your revenue. As much as you're trying to grow it, you're also trying to protect it. Right. And so I think it's in the Valley, many people that I know are basically serial entrepreneurs. Even if they're not themselves starting the companies, they like to go either as part of the executive team or as part of the startup team. They don't have to be people who are doing the sort of leadership activities.
Right.
They can be individual contributors, but
Right.
they continue to sort of rotate. And I think it's because that whole sense of freedom and opportunity is so addictive, right? So, at NetApp at some point I said, great, this is wonderful. I'm managing a lot of people and a lot of revenue. I'm learning a lot about processes, but I want the excitement that we had in the early days.
Right.
And so I jumped into a very early stage startup, where we had a bunch of ideas and but not a lot of execution of those ideas. But it gave us freedom to move in many different directions. And Terracotta, 4 years after I joined, is a very, very different place. We acquired a company. We took our original product, we made it open source. We've done a lot of very big moves, which are very hard at a large company. I mean, you can't imagine a company the size of NetApp suddenly saying, okay, we're now going to open source our technology, right? Or we're going to completely change our product. I mean, those are things that by nature go against revenue protection and kind of following your business model. So It's great to kind of go in and establish a business model. That's one of the most fun things you can do as an entrepreneur.
Right. That's great. Any big lessons or lessons that you learned during your career that you want to express to our MBA students that are thinking about taking an entrepreneurial track?
Well, one of the things that I said I truly believe is that during the panel is that risk taking is fun. It's a lot easier to do at this stage, and they should really go out and grab it. And you know, the Valley is actually set up really well for risk takers.
Right.
It's not, I would say, it's not inordinate levels of risk.
Right.
You're not going to if your company crashes and burns, you're not marked and tainted for life.
Right.
People go on, they learn from their mistakes. In fact, you know, a lot of times, you know, when you go for your next job, people will say, well, you know, they're tested. You know, they've gone through the fires of, you know, the forge. You know, so I think it's really, I think risk taking in the Valley is rewarded more in the Valley than most places I know.
Right. Well, great. Well, thank you, Amit.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun.